Mickey Hart here, you're listening to the GAA Hour Football Show.
The GAA Hour with Colm Parkinson is brought to you by Paddy Power, home of the Money Back Special.
I'm not finished yet, it took me a long time to get here.
Both players have spoken with each other and they regret what happened. They've had a frank discussion with each other, and they're both of them are keen to now focus on getting back their county jerseys.
That these fellas will get such a shell shock next Saturday evening that we'll put them back in their asses for 10 years.
Welcome to the GAA Hour on a Thursday. It's myself and Conán here in studio today. Conor has disappeared again this Thursday. He's a part-timer, Conán, so I don't know what we're going to do.
Got him.
Don't know what. Yeah, he definitely didn't like that sub-talk. We might come back to that a little bit later, because there's some referees who are acting a little bit like I did, which is not really recommended when it comes to not being chosen for the first 15 or for the first choice referee. But we want to start with the CCCC, Conán, because they've circulated proposals to counties yesterday. Martin Breheny had this in the Independent this morning. So they sent around proposals in preparation for a meeting of Central Council, which is Saturday week. We know it's on Saturday week because we talked about the Playing Rules Committee have tweaked some of their rules. We'll talk about that in a minute again. But interestingly, it looks certain that the Dublin footballers are going to have 2 round-robin games in Croke Park again next year if they reach the quarter-finals, which I just find absolutely unbelievable. It makes no sense to me. And we know the controversy, we know all the cases being made as to why, if it's their home game, if it's their home venue, it can't be their neutral venue, and if it's a neutral venue, then it shouldn't be their home venue. So there's 2 arguments you can look at this and say that this isn't right. So the CCCC said, this is what was circulated to county boards. Since the introduction of the qualifiers in 2001, Croke Park has been considered a neutral venue for quarter-finals, including games involving Dublin. Fixtures there have been generally welcomed by players above games in any other venue. Since 2001, 10 years later, Dublin decided to play other league games there, which is now a de facto home ground, so it cannot be neutral for them. You can argue this strongly by saying, bang, you put that neutral, it's not their home venue, right? Then you want to say it's their home venue, then it can't be their neutral venue. There's 2 ways of saying this is not, Dublin should not play 2 games there. So them saying that it's a neutral venue is absolutely precluding Dublin from playing their home game there in the interest of fairness. That Dublin should have to go somewhere else for their home game. Like, I just can't understand, outside of money, how anyone can say that this should be continued.
Rather than getting into if it's a home or a neutral venue, where the Dublin people will now argue the Parnell Park is their home ground. Forget about that. Like, the fact is they're going to have 2 games in the one place, wherever it is, and they shouldn't have that. Like, it's not fair. It's not fair in Donegal last year, who had 2 away games in a row before they got their home game. They went away to Dublin for the neutral game.
No, we'll come to that, because that's going to be changed, thankfully.
No, I know that, but I mean, this is what happened. Then a team will have 2 away games if Dublin have 2 games at Croke Park as one of the neutral venue. And Dublin would like this. I don't think Dublin would care one bit. I think they'd actually prefer if you said to them, right, you're playing 1 game at Croke Park, 1 in Clonus, say, and 1 away in Tralee or whatever. Dublin will be more than happy about that. We talked about the Oma game and how much it would have meant to them. They go up and prove people wrong. I'm sure they're sick of listening to people say that, they're not saying it's the only reason they're doing well, but this is almost detracting from their success, the fact that they get 2 games at Croke Park. They'd be more than happy to go outside. I can't believe that the CCCC are letting this happen.
It's money. I can believe it. It's money. It has to be money. There's no other explanation other than money. It's money. That's it. There's no other logical explanation in the interest of fairness and the integrity of the competition and Dublin's reputation, all different factors. It has to come back down to money. That's my opinion. There's 2 proposals about the Tier 2 football on the agenda for Central Council as well. One features all 16 Division 3 and 4 teams being excluded from the qualifiers in favour of the Tier 2 competition, while the other allows them to compete in both. So, I don't know, this Tier 2 football agenda has just been shoehorned in here by John Horan and by the GAA without looking at the whole year in its entirety. And obviously now it looks like this could be pushed through. It's not fixing any of the problems across the year. It's a good idea, but if you're going to do it, fix the whole calendar. Now, if I was to choose between those 2 agendas, I would choose the first one. So you lose in a Leinster Championship, instead of going into the qualifiers, you go into the Tier 2 competition. Rather than, I'm not sure how it would work playing the you go out early in the it's the early qualifier losers, obviously. But if that's the case and it's the early qualifier losers, it's Division 3 and 4 teams that are excluded. So it's not like you're going to see a Division 2 team lose at the qualifiers, go down, win the Division 2. That would make a bit of a farce of it. But anyways, I still stick to my point that I think the Division 2 All-Ireland should be your goal at the start of the year, and that should be it, and that's what you should be working towards. But I don't want to get into huge discussions about this, Conán, because we've been blue in the face talking about this. You're going to come back to me with a Champions League model, and then we're going to start talking about that.
I was just going to say, they have to rip out the provincial if they want to do this, like, you know, that's the big problem. But that's
the elephant in the room. So just on your point there, this is another one, is that at least this is a bit of logic and common sense, is that the provincial football winners are likely to have home advantage in their first rather than third All-Ireland quarter final. So like that obviously makes perfect sense. So the teams coming through the qualifiers should have the disadvantage of the home game being third. They could be out by then. The provincial champions should have their home venue first. So obviously Dublin, if you want to put a negative spin on this, so they have their first home game in Croke Park, then they have their neutral game. They have their first 2 games at home.
Game wrapped up.
So that's wrapped up.
Going to Oma means nothing.
Rest a few lads. Right, them going on the road now. I actually think potentially they did it the other way to make it less controversial about Dublin playing 2. So now Dublin just have this wrapped up after 2 games, and they can play a dummy team like they did against Roscommon after their 2 games. Now, to be fair to Dublin, they did that this year anyways, and they had a tough away tie in Oma. The chances are Dublin will win their 3 Super 8 games anyways, but that's not the point. The optics are all wrong, and in the interest of fairness, it's all wrong.
Yeah, it's like, I don't know how much longer we can talk about this. It's baffling that, like, this is unbelievable, like, that this is going through. Like, I've just finished watching Making a Murderer, and, you know, they bring up all these pieces of evidence, and you can't believe that people won't look at them. Like, this is crazy that this is just being put before a judge and dismissed.
Making a Murder. And I've been watching The Whistleblower there for the last 2 nights as well, which is unbelievable in the same way. So are we comparing this Super 8's Dublin home advantage to the
Making a Murder?
Making a Murder and The Whistleblower. Yeah. Maurice McCabe. I don't think it's that serious, but I get your point. Absolutely get your point. So the standing the playing rules committee have tweaked the sin bin. So we discussed the fact that they tweaked so this is up for discussion at Central Council as well. We know that they tweaked the kick-out rule, and I actually admitted that I got that one wrong, which really difficult thing to do. But the sin bin has been tweaked, and the only tweak to the sin bin is still a sin bin for a black card. But weirdly enough, they were given 2 yellows being a sin bin as well, which I think led to more. They were worried that it would lead to more fouling. You could probably, you know, those kind of fouls that are kind of clotheslines, or, you know, a dangerous enough foul that's a yellow. You can actually get away with doing that twice and only get a sin bin. So you could really be told as a cornerback, go in there now and make sure you rattle him hard and give him a good dead leg, you know, because it's not necessarily a sending off, maybe, you know, kind of that hip height kind of challenge or a bad shoulder. So that's the 2 yellows now will be a red. So they've tweaked that. I think the great thing about this is all the panic about when these came out. They're open to correction, and they're not putting their foot down saying we know best. They actually saw them being implemented and now have tweaked them, and tweaked the kick out one and the 2 yellow ones, and they would have been 2 ones we found you found strange, the kick out one. I was trying to be positive about the whole thing, which is out of character, but like they have fixed 2 that would have caused a lot of, maybe most of the opposition. Yeah, and that was the worry, that someone like you might have been in there and just been so stubborn about it all. Said no, we're pushing this through, but like they've listened, and they've looked at the evidence, and they've decided that some things don't really make much sense. That, like, the sin bin is a great thing to bring in for a black card, because that's the best, we talked about it, that's the best punishment for it. But it didn't make sense that they lumped on a second yellow that didn't need to be there, and that's gone now as well. Yeah, okay, that's fair enough. So meals delivered, I have down here. So the Eamon Donoghue in the Irish Times was talking to a catering company, and they've catered for the Limerick hurlers this year, who obviously won the All-Ireland, and the Kildare senior hurlers and footballers. And there's a lot of counties who've been in contact with their strength and conditioning coaches, so they're hoping to be involved with a lot more. So this is what your man said. So some teams we would provide food for after training. Other teams we would provide a set amount of meals to the players over the week. And I found that interesting. So they work hand in hand with the nutritionist and the strength and conditioning coach, and they provide ready-made meals. So like we know from that ERSI report that players are spending 31 hours per week training. So do you have time to do your weekly shop? Do you have time to eat healthily? Do you have time to cook it? Do you have time to prepare 3 meals in advance, because the next day you might be commuting, you won't have time to cook when you get home? All these things. So these are, I think this is the future. I think catering companies should be using their heads on this. Most catering companies are coming in providing meals for teams after training. So like, I mean, it's a cheaper way than going down. When I was with Laois, we'd go down to a hotel at the start. Then towards the end, we were getting meals brought to a Moore Park, sitting down, eating them together. Much faster, you're out the door. And that was a catering company. So it's moving on now. So you all these whispers about Dublin, so they'd have their meals, and then there would be like 40 ready-made meals that they would take on for their day the next day. Now, I've been given information with Dublin that this never actually was the case at all. That some of the Dublin players, after the catering, there would be some food left over, and they'd scrape it into a bowl and they'd bring it on for the next day. I think Dublin are at All Blacks levels of, so many rumours go on about how unbelievable their setup is, that there's so many whispers going on that if you were to go in there on a weekly basis, it might not be as unbelievably high tech, but I'd say Dublin absolutely love all this stuff that goes on about them, even if it's not true, if it's exaggerated. This builds up this mystique that they're doing it so much better than everybody else.
Yeah, they probably have a good laugh. Like, I remember one of the players talking about the pre-season training was up in the Malahide Road, just one of those pitches off the side.
Yeah, with lights, with no lights or anything.
Lights, and just muddy pitch, just a bog standard pitch. Like, you know, and they were sort of like, what? People thinking they're running around a track, you know, like Rocky IV with the Russian getting all the
with all wires coming out of them and everything,
and everybody else is running through the snow, like trying to catch up on them. But like, have you ever tried any of these ready-made meals? I know catering's a bit different if it's after training, it's there ready for you. But like, I remember like getting, like, just buying it myself, getting it sent out to the house, and you have your meals all done for the week, and they're not as nice, like, you know, as cooking them fresh, which probably goes without saying.
Well, they're not going to be. No, they're not going to be. It's as long as they're nutritious, you just have to get through them. They're not going to. It's not obviously not going to be as nice as your mammy might cook at Conán. But like, I mean, it's absolutely for the players when they're spending that much time, though, they just don't have time to be cooking and to be going shopping and stuff like that. That it absolutely takes a big load off their weekly schedule if you're giving them these meals, because you look at it, right? So they'll go down training Tuesday, Thursday mostly, and they will be having their meals after that training. Now then it's the Tuesday, it's the Monday, Wednesday, Friday. So Monday they might do a recovery. Do they have to go do their weekly shop then after that? And then by the time they do the recovery, do their weekly shop, it might be 8:30, 9 by the time they start cooking themselves. Then they do have to cook on Monday night for the Wednesday and the Friday, knowing that they'll be doing gym work both those days after, maybe not the Friday but the Wednesday. See what I mean? It's a lot for them to have to do, because they're trying to put in professional preparations and standards outside of a working environment. Not the students, they have a better schedule, but the fellas working. So I see a huge future for these catering companies. It's massive. Like, I mean, you want to be getting this one, and I'm not going to mention it because it's not for me to be advertising for anybody, but they're in with Limerick and Kildare hurlers and footballers. Huge untapped resource there. I know the gourmet food parlour does caters for Dublin, but I think making these ready-made meals and lunches and stuff for intercounty players, it's the future, anyways.
I think every single intercounty team needs it. Like, you know, like, intercounty players don't have a lot of time. Like, you know, and not only the time thing, but it's a lot of money. You're talking about a weekly shop, but if you're serious about playing intercounty football and you're going to have to prepare for 3 meals a day.
GPA give them some allowance, don't they? Wasn't that in the last GPA deal that they get some allowance for nutrition or something?
Yes, you're right, actually. So,
but still, like, I mean, that's great. Financially, that's great. But I'm talking about the time-consuming element of doing your recovery on a Monday after training, and by the time you finish recovery, doing your shop. Like I said, you might do your shop on Sunday, but you have a league match. So you do your shop, and you're actually starting to cook your stir fry or whatever that it is, like at 9 that night, and that's not good eating that late at night, and it's no good to your body eating that late. You want to be eating earlier in the day.
You're watching
all those
Netflix
things.
at that time of night.
You want to be chilling out with a cup of tea and maybe a plain biscuit, not the chocolate biscuit, whatever they're eating. Mickey Moore into Kilcoo, Conán, was kind of big news that broke yesterday. So he's with Slough-Nail and did so well with them, with 3 Ulsters, and lost 2 finals, and they lost 2 finals to Crokes, Narrowly and Corofin. So there's absolutely no shame in that. So when you think about what he did with Slough-Nail, so now he's with Kilcoo, and interestingly enough, he beat Kilcoo with Slough-Nail in the 2016 final. So he has got Conleth Gilligan with him. So it's a full Derry setup. Why are these fellas not managed? Mickey Moore has never managed his own club. He's managed so many different counties and everything. What's his club in Derry?
Glen Mahara.
And are they any good?
Neighbours of
Mahara. Right, Mahara. Oh no, it was Mahara Felt that did the huge defensive job against Slough-Nail. Right, but Mahara worth his time.
Oh yeah, like they're like they won like 3 Ulster minors in a row. Like, you know, so they're the next coming team, got to the semi-final.
Mickey, go back home.
Yeah, I thought that would be sort of earmarked for him, but like, you know, Slough-Nail are big rivals of Mahara as well, so I don't know how that sort of went down. They run into each other, but Jesus, when I saw these 2 names together, Mickey Moore and Conleth Gilligan, I thought, oh my God, like this is like a dream team.
It's a Derry management team, man.
Pure total football. Like Conleth Gilligan there, I think he was 37, 38, it could be 39, not sure, but he was top scorer again in the Derry Championship, in the whole Derry leagues, like he always is, like, you know. But
he played like a clever player. Yeah. Like, I mean, if obviously there's some clever players to go into management having a notion, but I have a feeling he probably understands the game.
And he's a real affable fella as well. Like, everybody loves him. Like, everybody in the Derry panels, all the Ballinderry boys, they love. He's such like he's a soundest man. You know, if you meet him, and he's real nice way about him. So having him around, you know, a club scene will be great, and him learning off Mickey Moore is going to be amazing. Everywhere Mickey Moore goes, he has success. Everywhere.
Well, no, not at inter-county level. Like, let's
relatively.
So he managed Derry.
Semi-final he got with Derry.
Managed Donegal.
Won the league with Donegal.
You know, he didn't.
No,
McIver won the league. Yeah,
Donegal wasn't good. He got them to the quarter-final with Dublin, and they all went for a piss-up.
Managed Leitrim.
Did he not get them to the Connacht final?
Oh, Jesus, I don't remember. I don't think so. I don't think Leitrim were in the Connacht final. Sligo. No, that was the Galway manager. Who's Galway manager now?
Yeah.
Kevin Walsh. He got Sligo.
Rose-tinted glasses.
He got Sligo to a Connacht final. He managed Mayo as well. So he's managed loads of counties.
All-Ireland final of Mayo.
All-Ireland final, and beat Dublin in that semi-final, and gave. Although the Mayo players double-crossed him with that and ran to the wrong end. Mickey Moore had no part in that, as we know from 1 or 2 of our live shows. So yeah, so it'll be interesting to see. Kilcoo obviously were beaten going for 6 in a row. So they won their 5 in a row. So they're a really good club team, and Mickey might be able to turn them from Ulster pretenders to Ulster champions. Wexford won their appeal, and Laois lost theirs. This is against the training ban. So Armagh, Laois, Waterford and Wexford have been punished. So they'll lose 1 home league game next year for not respecting the training ban, weekend ban in April. Now we all know this is rich, considering that the GAA have broken their own inter-county bans with the Fenway Classic, which is a monstrosity, and the Wild Geese. So Wexford have appealed theirs and they've won theirs. So their training weekend was not a training weekend, and it used no county board funding. I would say it definitely was a training weekend, but it probably didn't use county board funding. And in fairness to Wexford, they played 3 rounds of their senior club championship in April. So they still did the right thing, and they used the other one for Wexford to go away. So they've appealed it and they've won theirs. Laois went down to Kerry, so there's no huge, no warm training, warm weather training for Laois. They went down to Kerry. I'd say they were training as well. Like, I mean, the idea that a county would say, oh yeah, well, we went away and we didn't do anything. What a load of nonsense.
What was Dublin's? It was a history trip in France?
That was to France somewhere, yeah. But like, I mean, well, you wouldn't put it past Jim Gavin to do a history trip, would you? I don't know. I'm on the fence with that. Like, I mean, they definitely did some bit of training. Now, whether they did tactical work, they would have they absolutely would have done some training. Yeah. I don't believe anyone, if you say you're going away for a weekend altogether, sure, it's a total waste. Like, when amateur players get an opportunity to spend a weekend together and to not use that opportunity to go through, to use it wisely, it's just it's how could you argue that?
Like, this would be more of a violation, I think, if it happened around now, when there's a training ban. Like, we've talked about April, and like, it's a couple of weeks before the championship, The fact that teams are getting punished for preparing for the championship is mad. Again, it's madness. Injustice is mad.
Because when you look at it as well, Conán, and the league is so intense now. So the league is every week pretty much, and you've got 2 weekends that aren't. So you're going through your same, it's almost like championships. You're going through your Monday night recovery. You're coming back onto the field Tuesday. You can't do much. Then Thursday, the games are coming so thick and fast. You don't have probably much time. The nights are dark. The weather is dark very early, so you don't have much time to do quality, actual tactical work, walkthroughs, all those things. And weekends are gone because you've got games every weekend. So then you've got the April free just before the championship, and you are not allowed to go away for a weekend and actually do some tactical work and use that time well. That's a bizarre. It's just stupid.
And what about these counties who didn't respect April for clubs, but they trained anyway, but they didn't go away on a weekend?
Go away.
So they're fine just because they didn't go away. Like, but
is it the going away that's the problem, or is it the training that's the problem? You know, which is it? Yeah. Or are they concerned with county boards using resources? I don't know. It's another one that you'd be scratching your head. So Laois definitely have lost a home league game next year. Micheál Burns was doing a media day yesterday for AIB. Actually, do you know, I wanted to talk to Micheál Burns. I had to go for a doctor's scan with Itzy yesterday. So I wanted to talk to him, but I could find no evidence of what kind of a talker he was or anything on YouTube. So I wasn't really sure. And anyways, I ended up not being able to go yesterday. But Micheál Burns is somebody I'd like to talk to. But he's talking about the Kerry captaincy. And obviously this very, very outdated notion in Kerry and Kilkenny that the county champions are the captain. And that happened to me with Laois one year. The year I went away travelling, I was picked as Laois captain because we'd won the Leinster Club and the Laois county title, and Portlaoise had nominated me for captain of Laois. Now me and Micko didn't get on that well. So that'll just tell you how ridiculous this is, that a fella who didn't really get on with the manager that well and Micko was accepting me as captain, like no problem. I was thinking to myself, what kind of a relationship would this be? Do you know what I mean? But like, we had started getting on a little bit better at that stage, but I ended up not going in. But Micheál Burns is talking, and he's right. Like, I mean, this fella was he was the only Dr. Croke's player playing against Galway in the league. So at 21 years of age, he was put in as captain. It was his first ever league campaign. Now, he said it was his work. He said we played Galway in the league, and for whatever reason, I was the only Croke's player playing, so I was captain, and it was my worst game of the league because I was thinking about it so much. I was thinking about how my family would be proud of me, the club would be proud of you, and all this type of stuff. I was 21 years of age, and it just got the better of me on the day, and I played my worst game of the league. Like, that's just stupid. Yeah. Why are they like? It's so outdated. I remember I think it was Liam Kearns came in and broke that tradition in Laois. He just said no. He just said no. I'm not. Absolutely, I'll be picking my own captain.
Did anybody care?
No. So the players all pretty much would have agreed. It would have been another, and that would have been at a time when Portlaoise probably would have won the county. Like, it would have been a Portlaoise man up again and up again. But it's the best man for the job. Like, I mean, that's, and again, me being captain of Laois that time, I was never in Portlaoise. I would have taken on a big leadership role, but I never had that role with Laois. And it would have been weird for me to actually start taking that role when I used to actually leave that to fellas who probably deserved to have that kind of status within the squad. I didn't really have that status within the squad, and I didn't really think me being parachuted in as captain would have been really right.
It's like there are emergent leaders in every team. Like, you know, there's always 2 or 3 captains who it's natural that they should be the captain.
They are that through commitment in training, playing well in matches, and doing the right things in training, and that being consistent. So they've elevated themselves naturally to that status. You can't just be parachuted in from being a Jack the lad like I was into now I'm captain, because I took being captain really, really seriously for Portlaoise, and I thought I was a good captain. And you know, I'm will tell you the truth, but I did think I was a good captain, and I didn't really see how it would work with Micko. And, you know, with the squad, me kind of taking on that role.
Yeah, so it's not even, in that case then, it's not even that you're like Micheál Burns and not ready to be captain, but this is a completely different circumstance where you're going into the county, there's Mick O'Dwyer who you don't get along with too well, so like that's not taken into account for this whole sort of automatic thing where you won with Portlaoise, you're captain. That's it.
Yeah, it's wrong. It's wrong.
Did you have any meetings with Miko about it, or what?
No.
What happened? Like, how come you didn't go in? And
well, I went away travelling.
Right.
So that
Again?
was kind. No, that was kind of an extension of that.
Oh yeah.
It was the year we got to the All Ireland Club final. So after the All Ireland Club final, I went away until the following Christmas. So I actually missed out on that year. So it was never a question. You see, that was the year, without going into it too much, like Miko had left Laois at that. So I was weighing up this decision to go away or be captain of Laois, whatever. And then Miko fixed a training session for Laois on a Saturday night at 7:30, randomly in October, November, in the dark. And I think only like 10 or 12 lads showed up. Now it was late. It was on the Thursday night this was decided, and we'd never trained at the weekend like that before at that time of the year.
Yeah.
He used that as leverage to walk out on us. Then there was all these rumours that he was going to go manage Dublin, and I was told by a football board chairman that it was an argument about money with the county board, but he used the players as a pawn. And he used our lack of commitment as a pawn to fight battles behind the scenes. Then he ended up coming back to Laois. All of a sudden, lands back. The players have promised me that they'd give us a commitment. We were ringing each other saying, what kind of a bollocks would do this to us?
Yeah.
So I went, nah, that's not for me. I'm not going in there. I am absolutely not going in there as captain. So that was kind of how that decision was made. Very, very easy for me.
Do you regret not being captain of Laois? Never mind that year. But
I do, because they lost to Dublin by 1 point in the Leinster final. And I was coming off Leinster Club Player of the Year, Laois Player of the Year. I was in the form of my life. I was definitely worth more than 1 point.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Could have lifted the Leinster.
Could have lifted the Leinster title, yeah. Well, anyways, that's the way. In fairness, I actually think I mentioned this on the show. Ross Munnelly scored a goal in the last minute against Offaly in the first round of the Leinster, so they might never have got to the Leinster final. If I'd been playing that day, who knows, that game mightn't, you know what I mean? Ross might not have got that goal because I might have not have passed it to him. For example, do you know what I mean? Or I might have been part of the move and let that ball drop that he didn't. You know, you don't know. You don't. That's what makes this
two
easy.
very likely possibilities.
All right, so I mentioned at the start there that my attitude towards being a sub that I've outlined, and it's absolutely not the right way to act. And I think the Gaelic football squads have moved on from that kind of thing, that being on the first 15 is the be all and end all, and I wouldn't recommend my behaviour, and I think my career probably is proof that my behaviour wasn't the right proven. But anyway, Alfie Devine, this happens for referees too. Referees can act a bit like Colm Parkinson at times as well. So the 47-year-old, so he's 47, so he should know better. So so let me see. So this is it. So he's after retiring from being a referee. So he had taken charge of Leinster under-21 and Leinster minor hurling finals in 2016 and 2017, as well as numerous National League fixtures. However, the games dried up for him this year, and he is also Westmeath minor manager. So his decision to walk away from inter-county refereeing. So this is what Alfie says. I was progressing really well, and then all of a sudden the whole thing stagnated and the games just stopped coming. I wasn't happy with doing just linesmen or fourth officials. So here you go. This happens at the best of them. I wasn't happy just doing linesman or fourth official. I like to be involved in the game. This is me all. This is exactly. I gave 100% commitment, but it's difficult to stay interested when you're not getting the games.
Can't do the sprints if you're not going to be referee at the weekend.
So he says, it's disheartening, but what can you do? I just decided last week to call it a day. I have other commitments like family and work, and there were factors in my decision also. So Alfie Devine, that's the wrong attitude, but I see where you're coming from, brother. If you're not getting the big job, that's it. And interestingly, it must be a Westmeath referee thing, Conán, because we remember James McGrath this year. Yeah. He threw the toys out of the pram, a bit like I often did. He said that he resigned from the national hurling panel as well. So that's 2 Westmeath men down. Because of subitis, the same subitis that I suffered from. So he said it's hugely disappointing not to be involved in the All-Ireland final. So he was overlooked for James Owens for the All-Ireland final. So he wasn't given a semi-final game. So that obviously made him think, usually the 2 refs in the semi don't double up and ref the final. Yeah. So he thought he was in the mix. Ended up being given to James Owens, so he wasn't happy about this at all. So he resigned. And you love this. So he had a Facebook post. So If only I had this back, if there was Facebook and Twitter back when I was playing. So he says, if I'm not your second choice nor your backup plan, either choose me or lose me.
Oh my God.
He says, either choose me or lose me if I'm not your first choice. What do you think of that? Choose
crazy.
Me or lose me.
I didn't see that at all.
You go, girlfriend. Here, we'll be back with Conor McDonald. Alright, so Naomh Eanna take on Ballyhale Shamrocks on Sunday in the Leinster semi-final, and their main man Conor McDonald joins us on the line now. Conor, it's the great Ballyhale Shamrocks in a Leinster semi-final. This is really the big time for Naomh Eanna.
Yeah, it's probably uncharted territory at the minute as well. It's something we haven't experienced ever as a club, but I suppose the whole of Wexford now is probably just thinking of Sunday and what we might bring to it. But it's obviously very exciting.
So do you have that tradition in Wexford? It would be tradition in Laois where the whole county rose in behind the county championships despite club rivalries.
Well, it'd be open. So anyway, I seem to remember Owlers playing Ballyhale down in Wexford Park a couple of years ago as well, and they beat them. And there was a serious crowd of that from all different. I was at that myself. There was a really good crowd from all around the county, and I would say so. Yeah, and on the most part, anyway, most clubs would row in together, and get behind the team that are representing the county. Yeah, so you're a very interesting club. You won your first ever final. You'd never been to a final before, so that must have been a huge deal for the town. We saw some of the scenes. Actually, there was a video doing the rounds of the main street in Gorey after the county final, and it looked like it was mayhem. It was something that I'll cherish for the rest of my days. I tell you that I couldn't believe it. Normally you beat the horns down the town, when you win something, and there might be a cup hanging out of a car or something. But there was one of the players actually went up through the town on the way by, so he had said that you're going to have to walk because the crowd is ridiculous, and there was the pipe band, and it was just it's magical stuff really. I never would have expected that, right, because Gorey is a big town, it's 10,000 population in or around. Wikipedia told me that, so I don't know. I'd say it's close. You're right, Jay, being around that. But so Naomh Eanna have been underachieving big time then. The town must have been just desperate for that. Yeah, I probably would have never really remembered Gorey even competing at senior or intermediate, so there's always talent there, and there was always underage teams kind of having some sort of success, but in the last couple of years, in the last say 5 to 10 years, it's really pushed on, and I suppose the adult level has pushed on the underage as well, so yeah, like I say, it was uncharted territory, but it's something that we want to keep going now as well, So that's the thing. So I was reading that in 2012, when you first started playing with the senior team, you were intermediate A, which in Laois that would be junior. It's the third level down. So you won that in 2012, then moved up into the intermediate proper, then won intermediate in 15, and now you're senior county champions in 2018. It's been a massive rise in fortunes. Yeah, it's just been a roller coaster really. We won that in 2012, and we went straight in we actually played in the intermediate final in 2013. We were beaten by Buffers Alley, who would have been, they were heavily tipped off to win. They were actually relegated from senior the previous year, and they were just heavily tipped off to win that and go straight back up to senior. And then it took us another, 2 years to get to another final. And 2015, then we won it. And I don't know, I don't know whether we're getting strokes of luck here and there or whatever, but there's obviously a lot of hard work gone in. And the group of players that we have at the minute, there's been a lot of them kind of together, grown up along as well. So, we've a nice mix there as well, Well, that's the thing, because you were saying that there's a lot of focus on the underage in the last 10 years, but that wouldn't have been the focus. That focus wouldn't have been on you, kind of coming up at under 12. That's a bit before that. So that's just a good bunch of players coming up in around the same time, which happens. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and even at the minute there's there's minor teams and stuff like that being really successful. Our under 15s have won the double there for 2 years in a row. Our minor footballers and hurlers are absolutely flying. There's brothers of the Malays, Owen Malay, Gary Malay. There's a brother Keane and his group of players. They're absolutely you're looking at them thinking, Jesus, like, where are they going to fit in, and who's going to lose their place to them? So the underage system at the minute seems to be thriving, and there's more and more members coming in the whole time, and it's just deadly, to be honest.
Yeah, no, that's fantastic. And you mentioned that they won the double, the under-15s. He won the double this year, really, because he won the intermediate football, and that was a week before the county final.
Yeah, I think probably with this team, to be honest, Colm, I think with the team that we have, keeping a week in, week out thing actually might have suited us, whereby we all had something to focus on again. And obviously, when we were going into games that we hadn't been in before, like a senior semi-final and final, and such a big game like that, to have another focus for a week, it kind of turned our attentions to that, and we didn't have to think about the county hurling final too much either. So kind of, for a young team, probably suited us,
Yeah, so you're getting to play every weekend and not really having to do the hard training because you're trying to stay fresh all the time.
Exactly.
It's probably. I was reading you were saying there's 3 players who play football and not hurling. So there's a huge. You're almost like a mini Slough-Nail.
Yeah, there's a serious turnover on both sides, and to be fair, like, anyone who might not have started on the hurling could start on the football, and it was just lovely. And I'd say this is the first year, I know for myself anyway, it's the first year I played the full year in about 5 or 6 years, nearly since I was minor. And every kind of lad who had been involved in hurling setups with Wexford or whatever at underage 21s and stuff, everyone kind of rode in this year, and we reaped the rewards of it, thank God. Especially with the football, and like I say, it obviously helps with the hurling as well.
So where do you play on the football team?
I started my first game. I was a bit of a John O'Shea there of a lad. Wherever I was needed or put. I started out, the first game was full back. I don't know how, but I wasn't expecting to start at all. I hadn't actually done it, and I was full back for the first day, midfield then for the kind of remainder of the year, and then I was full forward in the final. So
Jesus, so you've moved from full back. This is almost a record in itself. Full back and full forward in the same year.
Yeah, exactly. So, but I know it was great now to be involved as well. Yeah.
So you wouldn't have been able to celebrate the football one too much then, obviously, with your first ever hurling county final the week after.
Yeah, no, it was that was an experience in itself, because especially for the older fellas in the panel who, might think that that could be their last couple of, finals to celebrate. I remember we went to the Ashton Park there for a recovery session actually straight away after the game, which was surreal enough in itself. Our captain, Pedro Travers, he said he was in the sauna and he couldn't believe like that we were actually doing that, because he's been happening for years, and within a final there'd be celebrations for a couple of days, no matter what it was. So, he was kind of keeping everyone in check too, to say that this is an experience in itself and enjoy what we're doing at the minute.
Yeah, maybe that's why they all went so ballistic the night after the hurling, because they couldn't do it the week before. Yeah,
exactly. Yeah, I think it was probably an accumulation of 2 or 3 weeks of kind of joy, to be honest.
Yeah, come here. It was interesting that it was your first ever senior hurling final, and you won it. And you won it against St Martin's, who were the defending champions, who beat Oulart Dabala, and you were underdogs going into it. Because I saw from an interview that you did that underage you've only got 1 county medal under 12, and you used to get to all the county finals. So you obviously had a really good bunch of players on the way up, but you used to get to all the county finals underage, 14, 16, minor, everything, but you would lose to Rapparees. Is that how I pronounce that? It's Liam Ryan and Kevin Foley's club. So like that was a huge thing to get to senior and actually win your first one when you pretty much had a track record of losing them at underage level.
Yeah, I think 2006 was the first and only underage medal of proper standard, say maybe premier level. That was, of all the county finals we were in, for hurling anyway, it would have been premier, and it was 2006 was the first final that we had won. That was actually the first ever county final I was in, actually, and we won that, and ever since, I'd say I must have had 16, 17 finals where we didn't come out with a victory. And like I say, that was another town team as well. They're in the heart of Enniscorthy. So, probably numbers over the years would have been strong. And then, it kind of dwindled out a small bit. But every final we got to just seemed to win. So I suppose we kind of had to try and put the record straight some way when we got to this one.
Yeah, where's Rapparees, by the way? I haven't come across them before until I was looking you up there. Have they made the break? They haven't made the breakthrough at senior level yet.
They're in Enniscorthy. They were actually in the semi-final there.
Oh, they were, right?
They were in the semi-final. The Martins actually beat them in the semi-final.
All right, okay. So they're in and around in the mix.
They're in the mix, yeah. They've kind of made a surge there over the last couple of years, like ourselves as well. They've been senior longer than us now, actually.
Right. Has there been a push? Has there been a push for town teams in Wexford with games development officers or anything to try and improve the club teams in the towns, or is that it just so happens that yourself and Rapparees are improving?
Yeah, well, I think like you say, they obviously had a good bunch for the bunch we thought we had. You know what I mean? So they were winning all them finals. And they were bound to, get a good few off that group of players in itself. So I suppose over the years, there's been a good crop going up there, and there's a good crop coming in Gorey, and we're trying to replicate that now in the club. That we for the next couple of years there's going to be a few players coming through every year.
Yeah, exactly. I see you have Ger Cush and Billy Byrne are involved with the club. Is it Ger over the Camogie team and Billy's was over the under-21s?
Yeah, Billy has been over a good few teams. They've done serious work in the club, to be honest, and I think there's probably a slight bit of jealousy. Well, no, I wouldn't say jealousy, but they were so envious of the fact that we had done something that they had never achieved, because they, and there's a lot of probably players who would have played for the county who I would have felt might not have appreciated what could happen, especially if they had success with a county. And I couldn't believe, talking to Billy and Ger, having put so much work in, how much it meant to them, because I suppose it's probably not even kicked in with myself, really. But they're heavily involved, and Ger's heavily involved in the Camogie. And Billy, like you say, there was over the under-21s this year, and I'm sure he'll be involved now for another couple of years anyway.
Yeah, was it difficult to come back, because you obviously have no experience whatsoever of winning a county title, to come back down to earth for that Camross game? You had 2 weeks at least anyway, so I'm sure you had a week to celebrate. But often clubs that win their first one, they almost write off the Leinster club. It was never part of their yearly kind of focus, so they don't take it as seriously. Yeah,
well, I suppose we actually had a couple of days, and we said, well, we'll take a couple of days, and we played the Leinster football against the Kilkenny side, and they actually beat us by a point, which was not ideal, but to be fair, they were definitely the better side on the day as well. So it wasn't as if I wouldn't have put it down with any excuses. They were definitely the better side on the day.
You'd been on the beer all week though.
Not too much now, not too much. But look, we'd obviously done some serious celebrating. But I think we trained on Thursday, made up on Friday, and we played them on Saturday. Then, so you're some way fresh. Do you know what I mean? So they were the better side on the day. But I think after that game, we kind of thought, right, well, it's time to knuckle down now. There's no point in winning something and not showing the rest of probably Leinster what we're capable of as well.
Yeah, you're used to winning. Like, you won 3 Leinster under-21s with Wexford. You're winning now with your club. You win at football. I saw a quote from you saying that you've said it a few times. For me personally, I would find that if I'm not winning silverware or part of a team that's winning silverware, then it's a failure. And the perception, I suppose, outside of Wexford is that they're doing great. They've improved brilliantly, and now they're taking that step up to the top table. But that's probably not, after having 2 years of getting to that level, you probably want to move a little bit forward now. Would that be fair to say?
Well, I think on a personal level, if you were to say that you're finish up your career, if you were to finish your career with no medals, if I was to ask any player, I'm sure they would think, you wouldn't be too impressed or too happy with it, with nothing in your back pocket, leaving the sport. So, I know I've said that a couple of times, but I genuinely mean that on a personal level. Obviously, big days out and stuff like that are incredible, and the feelings that that all brings. But for a county, so passionate in Wexford, and the clubs around it on a club level, it's silverware is what you're kind of remembered for. Do you know what I mean? So that's kind of what I think about that.
Yeah, I'm sure Davey is on the same wavelength. He's not coming back in year 3 for nothing. Yeah,
I would imagine so. Yeah, he's in fairness, he's kind of threw us in the back seat there for a while, which is nice of him. He's allowing us to have our time with the club, and he's always kind of very respectful in that manner. I know he was the very same with the Martins fellas last year. So, but I'd imagine now he's like you say, he's begun him for action now again in his 3rd year.
Yeah, if nothing else, if the fantastic thing about winning a county title with your club is you miss all the horrible long running with the county.
Yeah, well, I think we're after playing 19 weeks in a row.
Jesus.
Well, I think myself and Colm and Bar have played 19 weeks in a row since the Westmeath county game, the Clare game, and then 17 weeks then with Gorey then hurling football. So it's while it's nice to miss a couple of runs at the start of the year, it'd be nice to get a bit of a break too,
No, it would. And after all that, how does your body feel? Is it fatigued, or is it possible, to do that? Or are you happy to do it when you're winning? How do you feel drained at this stage?
At the minute, obviously, being in this place where we've never been before, it's something that you kind of don't want to stop then.
Yeah.
And you just do everything possible to try to get the body in check. I probably feel a good bit fresher this week than I have for a long time, because we've had the extra week. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
After the hurling final, we had the football. We were obviously celebrating, so that was nearly a write-off week. So this week is the week just gone has been the week, a nice week of recovery and trying to just get fresh again, because I think the whole country knows the task we're probably going to have on Sunday, and you'd want to be fresh for something like that.
No, definitely. Come here, before you go, you were taking the frees for a long time for Wexford, and I saw a quote from you saying you're the most indecisive free taker in Ireland. I think we spoke about that before the last time you were on the show. Pádraig Doyle and Darren Hughes takes frees for Naveena. Would there be a bit of slagging at club training when you're on the frees for Wexford and you're not on the frees for the club?
No, it's true. I don't know how it even works. It just, like I said before, I don't have any other answer about the fact if they're going over the bar. I don't care if the manager's hitting them. That's the truth. But I know some people say it's very odd, but it actually happens quite a bit. I know Paul Morris has hit frees for Wexford as well, and he I've never seen him. Well, I've maybe one game seen him hit frees for his club. So I don't know whether it's a thing where club players, they might play all year in league games and stuff like that, and there could be a free taker there and he's going well.
Well, that's true.
County players, you wouldn't want to go in and upset that either, so like I say, once they're going over the bar, Pádraig's had a great year on him as well, so it's been brilliant.
Yeah, there's a whole politics to be played when you come back from the county, not to be the big shot coming back in and taking the frees off people or whatever. You have to be careful.
No, that just, you have to be mindful of the fact that I could be flying and you can't come in. Because the worst thing I could do then is turn around and miss a couple in the first game. Then you're the biggest clown then.
Oh yeah. They're all talking behind your back in the showers then.
Yeah, exactly.
Come here, Conor. I won't take up any more of your time. Best of luck against Ballyhale. That's down in Wexford Park, obviously. So, that's a big advantage for you, considering you would have played your county final there, and home advantage in a stadium that you're well used to. That you'll see that as a big plus, I'm sure.
Yeah, no, we've played good few games there this year alone. We think we've played 4 or 5 games this year. So look, we're obviously well used to it, and every advantage we can get against a team so experienced, and especially at this stage in the competition in Ballyhale, we'll take any advantage that we can. And hopefully, like you said earlier, we'll get a good crowd down from the county and get behind us.
Yeah, well, listen, best of luck and thanks for taking the call.
Lovely job, no bother. Thanks, Colm.
Alright, we'll have a look ahead to the games. And TG Cahir, as usual, are outdoing themselves this weekend. So they're going to have na Piercig Ballygunner on at 1:30, and then they're going to have Gweedore and Crossmaglen, which is going to be fantastic. And that's not even deferred, because that's on at 3:30. So it might be, I think I was reading, it's going to be maybe 5 minutes deferred or something like that, depending on whether Ballygunner and the Piercig, which was an absolute classic the last time they played each other, if that doesn't go to extra time. I hate the deferred game.
Yeah,
I just can't. It's very hard not to see the result, and even if you avoid the result, it's not live. It's not happening right now. Even though you might be in suspense, other people are not, and that ruins it for me.
Just because you know that it's already been played.
I know that this result is over.
I don't know if that ruins it. I
find it hard. I don't want to be a football snob, but I'll watch the football deferred. The hurling deferred, I find it hard to watch the hurling deferred one. I don't know why that is.
That's just because everyone's creaming themselves on Twitter about it, like, and you want to be part of it. And just put out a tweet saying hurling.
The hurling deferred games haven't been hugely high profile the last few weeks, so maybe it's been hard just to get excited about them. Do you know? Yeah. And then you have the deferred part as well. So they're the two. TG4 or TG Cahir are also showing the Fenway Classic, but I think you'd probably want your head red to watch that nonsense. That's just a bit of crack. That's not even Gaelic games. So I'm surprised TG4 even bothered with that, to be honest. They're such stalwarts for the club game. I don't know why they would be even touching off that.
Yeah.
And the GPA have done very well to get any TV company to broadcast this.
Yeah, well,
broadcast an 11-a-side into a soccer goal. Like, come on. 11, it's not even Gaelic games. You can't score points. Who wants to watch that?
Too many goals, is that what you're saying? You want more defensive hurling?
Oh, look, you can't even go for a point. It's just, I don't, look, we're not going to talk about that. We'll go through the games. So your Derry boys, Coleraine, are 2-1 outsiders to against Scottstown, and that's being played in Healy Park. There's a double header in Healy Park. This is the first one. The second one is the Gweedore Crossmaglen one. That's unusual, is it? And they're actually, I was looking at Declan Bogue tweet, he was talking about the prices. I think it's only €15 into those two games, which is sensational value. And the Derry or the Ulster Council were criticised at intercounty level this year, right, for their extortionate prices for their intercounty games. They're maybe rectifying that a little bit with their club to get into those two huge club games for 15 quid. It's fantastic.
Yeah, that's two better games than you'd probably see in the Intercounty Championship in Ulster. Like, you know, but I was actually thinking the Coleraine Scottstown could have been the TG Cahir game. So, like, I'd recommend anybody to get along to Oma if they can. Like, that's two.
Joe Brawley's going to be there anyways. We know that. So Scottstown really will be seeing this as a huge opportunity of winning the Ulster. They haven't won one, and we know they have a good team. And they've one of those teams that's strikingly good just based on the county players they have, which doesn't always equal a good team. You know, because you don't know the other fellas. So you could have some 5 outstanding fellas and then a lot of, you know, average players, and then it not work out. But they were beaten by Crossmaglen in 2015, and that was a close enough game, and they haven't pushed on since then. So Crossmaglen are in a little bit of transition, Gweedore in unknown territory, and Coleraine are no heavyweights. So Scottstown really will be looking at this year, and they almost have to win it, I think.
Yeah, I'd say Coleraine are looking at it that way as well.
Yeah, they probably, all 4 left are seeing it as being wide open. Yeah,
I fancy Coleraine. They're a very, very good team. A lot of intercounty experience. Like, you go through their team, like, talk about the Scottstown one, a lot of the boys aren't playing with Derry at the minute, but they still could be. They have a sensational side. Like, I do fancy them.
Right, fancy Coleraine, right? 2-1. Okay, so Gweedore and Crossmaglen is at the 3:30 game, and Gweedore 5-4, and Crossmaglen are 5-6. So this is very, very close in the betting. It looks like the game of the weekend in football to me from the outside. I saw Oisin McConville talking about, like, Gweedore are one of those teams that, exactly like Scottstown, that have the 4 or 5 intercounty lads that you immediately know, and he's talking about Crossmaglen getting their man marking jobs done on them, and he is of the opinion that if you close out those big names, that Gweedore might not have too much else. And I would be kind of that opinion when you have these real special players that are dragging them through. So, like, I mean, Kieran Gillespie, the Gweedore centre back, he's obviously out. He did his cruciate in the last Ulster match from the throw-in, so that was really unlucky. Who else? Odron McNeilish missed that last game, and Odron McFadden Ferry, he missed the last game as well. So McNeilish had it looks like McFerry will definitely be back. McNeilish had a broken finger and he missed the last one, so he's got a month since the county final. I presume he broke it in the county final. for him to be back. So they reckon he's going to be back for that as well. So he's going to be a huge game. It was interesting enough when I saw that he broke his finger, because you might think there's nothing to that, but I think I lost about 10 weeks one year with a broken finger.
Really?
Yeah, I broke it against Westmeath in a league game, and the pain was excruciating. It was my little finger, so like, I mean, you can't make a big deal out of a little finger being sore, right? Pinky. So I was like, I refused to come off, even though my hand was throbbing. I was like, what is wrong with this? This is a little bit, but it just would not come off. And I went in at half time, and I didn't even make a big deal out of it, because like, Jesus Christ, we're in a league game here, it's very serious stuff, and you're complaining about your little finger being sore, because I didn't know whether it was I'd never broken anything before. So I went back out in the second half and I tore my calf, and I went off with the calf I went off with the calf injury, but as it turned out, I'd splintered my finger. So I didn't break the bone in half, I'd splintered it, so it coming off at an angle. So it was a really painful thing. So they put me in a splint and tied it up. And I knew this was a little bit suspect from the start. So the bone is split down at an angle, and they're going to hold it together with a splint. So I'm in bed and rolling around, and I feel the bandage coming a little bit loose. So like 2 weeks later, they come back, and it's like, will we have a look and see, is this healed? And I was like, geez, it'd be doing well to be healed with this poxy splint. So it wasn't healed. So I had to get it operated on. So I'd lost the 2 weeks of the splint. Then I had to be booked in for an operation. Then they put a pin right across my finger, so a bit of metal was sticking out both sides. That took a month. Do you know what I mean? Then I had to come back from that. I was like, one stupid little finger injury. And you've lost the year. So now I'm looking at McNeilish being back for this match. I was saying, geez, that's a very serious injury he had.
We had a guy miss a game because he pulled a muscle on his back after he sneezed.
Really?
And he told us, like, just tell us you were lifting weights or something.
Sure, didn't Rio Ferdinand miss a Champions League game because he pulled a muscle getting out of bed, no?
I'm not sure.
He did.
Take your word for it.
He did. All these little things can happen, yeah. I don't know how it does, but this will be a really good game, and it's definitely winnable for both teams. We'll move on from that. Yeah, so the matchup on McNeilish, obviously from Crossmaglen, is the big one because he makes them tick. I was reading Joe Kernan. He was talking about there being 17 under 21 players, and Aaron said there's a huge turnover. Wasn't it 7 new players from 2015? And they got a bit of a culture shock against Coal Island because it was such an intense. We know the level of intensity Tyrone teams bring to it, and they hadn't really experienced that because I think it's more of a footballing. There are more footballing matches in Armagh, and then they come across in the Ulster Club and play a team from Tyrone, which is bloody war in Tyrone. So they were like, whoa, Jesus, this is some serious kind of stuff. So they just scraped over that. So, like, I mean, it is new territory for a lot of their players as well. The Connacht Intermediate Football Championship final between Spiddal and Fuerte. Always risky with these because I got Horswood. It's not Horsewood in Wexford, it's Horswood. Fellas correcting me all the time on these. So that's at 1 o'clock on Sunday. Leinster Senior Hurling Championship semi-finals are on as well. So Naveena, we're talking to Conor McDonald about that one against Ballyhale Shamrocks. Naveena are 9-4 outsiders. It's in Wexford Park. Ballyhale Shamrocks, who a lot like Crossmaglen are a huge powerhouse, All-Ireland winning, multiple All-Ireland winning, multiple provincial winning team that are rebuilding and have a lot of new younger fellas. So there may be, I think the name often dictates the betting on these things. You'd give Naveena a better chance maybe than 2-1 outsiders in that. Ballyboden. Anything to say on this?
No,
can't believe it. I usually just rattle off these hurling ones without any input. Can't believe this.
There's nothing good. Like, it's it's interesting. We were talking about pedigree last week. That was it. Like
general point about pedigree. Yeah, that's okay. That's it. You're definitely not coming in on specifics.
Henry
there.
Shefflin, TJ Reid back from the Wild Geese.
There you go.
I'm all out.
And Colin Fennelly. Ballyboden St Enda's play Coolderry in Parnell Park at 2. Ballyboden are 4-11 favourites for this. Coolderry 5-2 outsiders. Coolderry, I think, could potentially cause a shock in this one. Unfortunately, they had Mark Bergen sent off in the dying minutes of their last game. He had scored 3 points from play in the second half, so it looks like he's going to be out for the next round. This was against Mount Leinster Rangers when they beat them, so he got a straight red card. They've obviously got Brian Carroll in sensational form. He's retired from Offaly now. Kevin Connolly, the two of them got 1-12 between them. Connolly got 7 points from play, and Brian Carroll got 1-5, 1-2 from play. against Mount Leinster Rangers. So they've got the firepower to really hurt Ballyboden if they're not under game. We know Ballyboden only beat Clonkill from Westmeath after extra time, but there was a lot of emotion involved in that game. Ballyboden will definitely want to be winning it, based on the fact that the Dublin champions have won the All-Ireland Club twice in the last 2 years. So, that's probably what puts them 4-11 favourites in that one. Munster, this is the hurling game of the weekend. This is Na Piarsaigh versus Ballygunner in the Munster hurling final. Na Piarsaigh are 2-5. Huge super club. Ballygunner are 5-2 outsiders, a super club in their own right. Haven't won a Munster club yet, but with Na Piarsaigh floating around, it's probably not too easy to do that. Na Piarsaigh have never ever lost a Munster club match, so they've played in 4 times and won it all 4. Nice little record, isn't it?
Class.
So I saw Shane Dowling saying they don't want to be the losers to lose that record, and I was thinking, you created that record, so losing your own record, whoa, yeah, I think you'd be forgiven for that. That's year team. It's that's year record.
Yeah.
Losing someone else's record and being the fools doing that's different. But you're all right, lads.
It's not your dad, like, he's shaking his head.
Yeah. All the older members of the club, we just let them down after years of doing that. No, I don't. I'm not accepting that, Shane. So Na Piarsaigh were interesting. I actually just thought of this when I was looking at this game, was that Na Piarsaigh only had Mike Casey on the starting 11 for Limerick's All-Ireland win, and Corofin, another super club, only had Ian Burke starting against Dublin in the All-Ireland semi-final. It's traditionally the county champions, and like when Portlaoise were always dominating, they'd always have a good maybe 4 or 5 starters. Just wondering, is the trend maybe moving away from that, in that if you're Ballymun-Kickham's and you've 4 or 5 inter-county lads and they're your star players, is it difficult to go through the whole year without these fellas? Do you know, if they're in with the county all the time, and is it a step down? I don't know. I just think there's a little bit of evidence. Kilmacud Crokes only have Mannion and Keane O'Sullivan. Dr. Crokes have no guaranteed starter. Michal Burns is probably the one who played most. Fionn Fitzgerald probably as well. Portlaoise don't have as big a representation as used to. Castlebar Mitchell's another huge club, don't have a huge representation. It's just a strange little kind of quirk, isn't it, that some of these big super clubs are not dominating their county team like I think traditionally usually they do.
Yeah, like I always remember growing up in Ballinderry and Balahi would have 7 or 6, members in the Derry panel all at once. There'd be all those players, and maybe it's just moved away a bit. Not that the clubs are trying to keep the players, but it takes a bit more than just being the best footballers now in the county to play county. Yeah. So maybe these clubs still have the best footballers naturally, but they're not all willingly putting in, or they're not the most athletic or whatever. Maybe the county's looking at something different.
Gweedore and Scottstown are obviously exceptions to that, but Gweedore and Scottstown are not dominating nationally. Corofin are, Na Piarsaigh are, Dr. Crokes are, and they don't have any. They're not dominating their county panels. I just find it a strange one. And in fairness, Castlebar Mitchell's dominated one Munster club or one Connacht clubs and lost 2 All-Irelands, and they don't dominate the Mayo one. I just, maybe being the traditionalist that I am, I find it a little bit of a strange one. Always traditionally, the idea in Laois anyways would be that Laois won't win anything without a good representation of Portlaoise, because Portlaoise were usually dominating the club. You should backbone your team with the team that's winning, because they're kind of used to winning. That's my theory on it anyways. Finally, the Galway Hurling Championship final is on. This is Liam Mellows versus St. Thomas's. So Liam Mellows are 15-8 and they're defending champions against Thomas's, who are 8-15. That's according to Paddy Power. And the Thomas's won it in 16. So it's the last 2 champions playing each other. But interestingly, Conán, you'll absolutely love this, being the what will I say? Being the
hurling aficionado, but you kind of love a good kind of feel good GAA story. That's what you. Oh, let's go.
So Thomas has won their first ever county title in 2012. They won the All Ireland that year, so they'd never won a county title and went on to win it. So they won the county title again in 16, and they lost a brilliant final against Ballyea. I remember that game. It was on TG Cahir. They were losing by 12 points with 12 minutes remaining. They got it back to a point. But anyways, Thomases have David Burke and a load of brothers, and they have Conor Cooney. So when they won the county final back in 2012, get this, there was 18 brothers on their squad. So they had 2 Skehills, they had 2 Sherrys, they had 2 Kellys, they had 3 Coonies, and they had 3 Murrays. But that does not compare to the fact that they had 6 Burkes. They had Kenneth, Sean, David, Cahill, Dara and Enna, and their father was the manager. So another Burke as a manager. I remember Marty Morrissey being down in their kitchen. I think it was after they won the county final that first year. I remember seeing it. And it was like, Jesus, it's full of Burkes. And he was in Burke's house and he was having breakfast with them. And I'm pretty sure it was Marty. It was someone from RTE anyways. So they had 18 brothers on their squad when they won the All-Ireland Club. Now, a tear could form in your eye when you hear that kind of thing.
That's what it's all about.
That is exactly what it's all about. So it'll be interesting. They're very, I don't know how many of all these brothers are still involved now. But yeah, they're in the county final. That's in Pearse Stadium at 2 o'clock on Sunday. And just finally, there is a Munster Club Intermediate Hurling Championship final between Charleville of Cork and Fecal of Clare. That's in the Gaelic grounds at 1:30. Charleville are favourites for that at 8-13. Fecal are 13-8. Right, that's probably it. Anything to say on that intermediate Munster Club hurling final? All right. No. All right, that's all we've time for this week. We'll be back on Monday where we'll review the whole thing. We'll talk to you then. Good luck.